in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he's also one with every other. Welcome, everybody, and welcome Sister Catalina to give her a talk on the Appendix 3, continuation of Hume's letter to Blavatsky. So, welcome, Sister. Please start.
Thank you. Thank you, Namaste, dear all, and thank you for being with us this evening. Like always, I want to thank Sister Vimal for your hosting and introduction, Brother Pradeep for the invitation, and Sister Sushma for the translation and the whole team, and Sister Meenakshi also for the translation and the whole team of the Indian section. And just let's take a quiet moment of reflection before we dive in, because I take it as a chance to reconnect with intention, being present, connected heart to heart, in spite of physical distances, and being thankful for being able to share some moments of common study and connection with this purpose. Thank you, thank you. So I'll start sharing my screen. As Sister Vimal told us today, we will explore the third or four parts, which I have divided this study of the Appendix 3, with the second part of the letter from Hume to Blavatsky, and we will also explore Anna Kingsford letter to Samuel Ward, a theosophist of the time. But for those who have not been here in previous session, I just want to make a small resume of what we have talked about. So let's remember that these letters between LBEs, that is the way that they are put in the book, means letters Blavatsky to Sinnet, but actually it includes letters not only from Blavatsky and Sinnet, but also from Hume and Kingsford and other people that have contributed to this correspondence. And also what is very valuable in this group of letters, that are in total 25 letters and fragments of letter, or sometimes just a comment of the master, is precisely that all of them have parts that are underlined by the masters and commented by them. So those are very enlightening passages of the texts. And the topics across this Appendix 3 in general are the relationship with the Mahatmas and the esoteric path, the personal struggles and sacrifice, the occult teachings and practical instruction and phenomena, and the defense of the Theosophical Society, and some advice on the administration. Because let us remember that all these letters were shared at the beginning of the Theosophical movement. And we review key letters showing how the Mahatmas shaped the society and its members, the core teachings related to the connection with the masters that comes from inner readiness, and some of the letters of Hume show us how he failed to grasp things using his straws, while Sinnet received guidance even on personal matters. Blavatsky's letters and comments also reveal her exhaustion and suffering, yet the Mahatmas use these moments as spiritual lessons also. Her silence, there were some incidents that were there in which, as we know, repetitively she was accused of being a spy or to falsify or forge the letter. So one of these is the Kirill controversy that was seen as she kept herself silent, like enduring, and it was seen as a maturity, not as a weakness. Hume struggles with the Mahatma's rejection of a personal God, and Cage keeps very clear that the truth should prevail and not his personal desire of no or proofs or more information. And in this letter that we are going now is the Hume's mix of loyalty and doubt when referring to the masters and to H.P.B., etc. So we are going to continue exactly with this letter. Um, and he had the first part of the letter that we studied last time makes this tone, it has this tone of mixed affection with doubt. He's trying to support theosophy, but at the same time he admits he doesn't fully grasp the teachings. And the Master Moria's comments reveal that he still has an inner confusion as a product of his extremely rational and westernized mind. Though he is well-meaning and he's not quite ready to surrender his ego. And this continuation, he will continue with a sarcastic dissection of the 7 principles, which, as we know, is a core concept in theosophical metaphysics. That this section that he does of the 7 principles reflects not only his growing frustration, but his sharp wit. He tears literally apart the idea of H.P.B. having one of her principles in pawn in Tibet, and uses it as a springboard to satirize the system's coherence. And the letter goes literally like this. He says, and it can't be the Linga Sharira, as that can't part from the body, and it ain't the Kama Rupa, and if it were, its loss will not account for your symptoms. He's addressing directly Blavatsky. Neither surely is the Jivatma. You have plenty of life in you. Neither is the 5th principle or mind, for without this you will be quad the external world, an idiot. Neither is the 6th principle, for without this you will be a devil, intellect without conscience. While as for the 7th, that is universal and can be captured by no brother and no Buddha, but exists for each precisely to the degree that the eyes of the 6th principle are open, so of the Buddhi. Therefore, to me, this explanation is not only not satisfactory, but it's having been offered, throws suspicion on the whole thing, because he is questioning her behavior, and it said that part of her character and all this struggle that she had were the reflection of this, the fact that there was a part of a body in pawn in Tibet. So let's look closely to Hume's logic, observing briefly the constitution of the human being as is presented by H.P.B. herself in the Key to Theosophy. The pages are referred there below on the left, and the role of each principle. So the first principle is the Stula Sharira, the physical body. He doesn't mention it here in his dissection explicitly, because H.P.B. is clearly alive and she has a physical body, so there's no question of this being missing. Then he begins his dissertation with the Linga Sharira, that is the etheric double or astral body. And he says, and it can be, just give me 1 second. Sorry. So he says, and it can be the Linga Sharira as that can't part from the body. So let's remember that the role of the Linga Sharira is, or the Linga Sharira is the subtle blueprint of or model for the physical body. It sustains and gives form to the physical vehicle. So Hume clearly dismisses that this is the principle that is missing, because according to theosophical doctrine, the Linga Sharira remains with the physical body during life and cannot separate from it permanently without death. So it's not logic that this is the one missing. Then he says, he talks about the Kama Rupa or body of desire or emotions. He says, it isn't the Kama Rupa, and if it were, its loss will not account for your symptoms. Let us remember that Kama Rupa is the seat of passions, emotions, and desires, the animal soul. He argues that even if H.P.B. were lacking Kama Rupa, it wouldn't explain the particular symptoms that she is showing. Perhaps he sees her symptoms as more mental or spiritual than emotional. So he discards this as an inadequate explanation. Then he goes to the Jiva or Jivatma, that is the vital force or life principle. And he says, neither assuredly is the Jivatma. You have plenty of life in you. So let us remember that this is the animating life energy, the prana, what keeps the organism alive. And HPV is clearly alive and moving, so she possesses vitality. Therefore, this principle is present and functioning. Then he goes, neither is the fifth principle or mind, for without this, you will be quoad the external world an idiot, in front of the external world an idiot. Manas is the seat of thinking, is the seat of reason, self-awareness, what makes a person mentally functional. And since HPV is still reasoning, speaking, and interacting with the world, and clearly writing this amount of literature, articles, etc., so he deduces that her manas must be intact and completely functioning. Because if it weren't, she would be mentally incapacitated, or as he says to her, an idiot. So that also is not the missing principle. And then he goes to Buddhi, that is the spiritual soul, the intuition, the conscious. And he says, neither is the sixth principle, for without this, you will be a devil, intellect without conscious. Buddhi, let us remember, is the vehicle of spiritual intuition and moral sense, and it unites with manas to form the higher ego or soul. This individuality that humans being has. So if Buddhi were absent, HPV will be an immoral intellect, sharp-minded, but without ethics or spiritual sense, which is not clearly her case. And finally, he goes with the Atma, that is the divine self, and he says, while as for the seventh, that is universal and can be captured by no brother and no Buddha. So it's impossible that they have this principle found in Tibet. But exists for each precisely to the degree that the eyes of the sixth principle are open. So the only possibility that we have to even have a glimpse of this higher principle is through our Buddhi, our intuition. So he concludes that as Atma is pure universal spirit beyond individuality, as it is the divine present in all beings, impersonal and attached, therefore cannot be lost or damaged. So Hume's reasoning, going principle by principle, I mean, it's very clear that he completely knows the constitution of the human being and the nature of each principle. And he uses the specifically like kind of scientific method of Western mindset to make this reasoning that displays his very brilliantly, his analytical mind. And he is doing this, attempting to dissect HPV's conditions through a reductionist lens grounded in theosophical metaphysics. What the content is eminently metaphysic, but the method that he's using is completely rational. By methodically eliminating each of the seven principles as possible causes for her symptoms, Hume tries to show that none individually account for her state. And his final statement shows once more his tendency towards intellectual hubris. He assumes that if the explanation does not satisfy his rational framework, it must be false or suspect. And to that, the reply of the master is as follows. He says, very clever, but suppose it is neither one of the seven particularly, but all. Every one of them are crippled and forbidden the exercise of its full powers. And suppose such is the wise law of a far foreseeing power. So Master Moria's response gently exposes the limitation of this fragmented reasoning. He counters not with a refutation of Hume's point, so he doesn't fall in the same trap of trying to convince him by rational means. But what he does is he shifts the perspective entirely. In this, he introduces the idea that the principles may all be partially impaired, working in restricted harmony by karmic occult necessity. His phrase, the wise law of a far foreseeing power, points toward a deeper cosmic orchestration beyond the grasp of analytical dissection. So this is like really powerful, the way Master really gives an answer that is maybe very difficult to understand by this kind of rational mind of Hume's, but that is the only possible question, because actually sometimes in order to understand those things, and even with the phenomena, even with the same existence of the masters, the analytical mind won't help us at all. We need to go inside. We need to really develop this body in us in order to be able to even grasp a glimpse of what all these things really mean. In essence, while Hume tries to solve the mystery by isolating parts, the master is reminding him that the spiritual path and the trials of one like HPB especially cannot be understood piecemeal. They are holistic and often governed by occult laws that transcend intellectual comprehension. And this is a powerful reflection for us also, that are trying to understand, grasp, and study the theosophical literature. So this is a very interesting and powerful, in my opinion, comment by the master. When I read this, I was just like, wonder of the way he just gives this wonderful answer, completely dismantling all possible rational explanation and not even falling in this of giving a counter rational explanation. And then the letter continues in the same line of questionings. Hume says to Blavatsky, if as quite possible, if as is quite possible, everything could be explained, then I only deplore the fatuity of the superior beings who send you to fight the world armed with only a part of your faculties. My God, he is really questioning even what the masters are doing, and carefully surround you with a network of such contradictory and compromising facts as to render it impossible for your most loving and by no means least intelligent friend to avoid at times grave doubts, not only as to their existence, but also as to your good faith. So he complains of Blavatsky's situation. You are in this put by the master with all these surroundings, and this is making so difficult for me to believe in the masters. It's like quite a selfish statement also. And the master replies, never for those who know her well. And later in the letter, Hume adds, "At all I can say is, if as I still believe on the balance of evidence, the brothers do exist, entreat and pray them so to strengthen you as to make you more what a great moral reformer should be, and so strengthen our hands to defend you and advance their cause." To which the master replies, "Nor shall we fail to do so when time comes." So he really is telling the master what they should do, but the answer is like, "No, shall we fail to do so when the time comes." In this fragment, Hume, though still believing in the existence of the brothers, makes an emotional appeal, asking that they entreat and pray to strengthen the Cella, HPB, to become more of what a great moral performance should be. And in doing so, he not only expresses his wavering faith, but also, I think he crosses a subtle line. He attempts to advise or even instruct the masters on what they ought to do. This reveals both his concern and his presumption. He positions himself as someone who, despite doubts, feels entitled to guide beings that he considers superior. And the master's calm reply gently reasserts their authority and timing. It neither rebukes nor agrees, but affirms that help will be given, not when asked for, but when it is truly needed. The response reflects the master's broader perspective that the spiritual development unfolds according to inner readiness, not external demands of individuals. In the letter, in relation to his doubt of their existence, he says, I believe you to be a perfectly true woman, but I could not swear that the whole story about the brothers was not a fiction. If they don't exist, what a novel writer you will make. You certainly make your characters very consistent. When is our dear K.H. again to appear on the scene? He is quite our favorite actor. And the master comments, the man blasphemes. K.H. will never be an actor for the gratification of anyone. Let him doubt it. He will not doubt much longer, but soon find out his mistakes. And then he continues, I suppose they know their own business best. But humanly speaking, they make a mistake in crippling my energies by leaving me without any certainty of their existence, and thus harassing me with doubts. Whether I'm not weakly wasting my time and brains over a chimera, time and energies that I might devote to some humbler but possibly truer and more good producing cause. However, I engage for 1 year, and during that shall I do all I can, honestly and fairly. But if within that period I can acquire no certainty, I shall retire from the society. Sinnet, however, lucky fellow, has no shade of doubt, and with his conviction, position, and abilities, he will be a tower of strength to you and to Theosophy. And then there is another fragment that I didn't bring, and the letter ends, love to Olcott, ever yours, affectionately, A.O.Q. I really find Hume's tone flippant and arrogant, calling first of all, Master K.H. a favorite actor. With that, he trivializes the masters, and that reflects a lack of reverence. And the master sharp response makes it clear that the sacred nature of the Mahatma's work is not to be trivialized or used for personal reassurance or entertainment. Then Hume's demand for certainty and his trait to leave the society if not satisfied reveals his prideful insistence that truth be delivered on his terms. The master's answer reaffirms that spiritual reality cannot be dictated by doubt or ego, but it unfolds when the seeker is truly ready. And also, I was a little amazed because he is like feeling like I don't want to waste my time and my brains over a chimera, time and energies that I might devote to some humbler but possibly truer and more good producing cause. While we have this contrast with H.P.B., to whom he is writing the letter, who is devoting her entire life, health, well-being, to this work of the master without even questioning she had her character, etc. But he is completely devoted to the work. And on the other side, Hume is just complaining like a tantrum because he doesn't have enough proofs of the masters. So this is a powerful contrast of what a kind of character was on one side Hume, and what kind of great soul and amazing human being was Blavatsky, that even though she was really suffering in her own body, her whole life was totally turned into the work to the masters. So this is also like a very strong inspiration for us as readers, as students, to see this kind of human being to which we have to thank for being here and having access to all these things today. And the final comment of the master in this letter goes like this. Finally, we do not approve in its present form or Mr. Hume's pamphlet. Let's remember that the beginning of the letter, he was talking about the fact that he was making a pamphlet that has like the two parts, one in which he defends theosophy, and the other one, no, one in which he's contradicting some of the things, and the second one in which he is defending, but even while writing his defense, he came to doubt even more. So the master says, we do not approve this pamphlet because comparatively few of the members of the society occupy themselves with occult study or believe in our existence. His pamphlet commits the whole body to both. He desires you to stay here as long as you possibly can. He will write through the disinherited. So he's talking about the master, okay? So this closing comment from Master Moria is a very firm but composed rejection of Hume's approach. It reveals a core concern, the risk of misrepresenting esoteric matters to a largely non-occult audience. That was the audience that was at that moment approaching theosophy for the first time, thereby compromising the society's credibility. The tone underscores the importance of discernment, humility, and boundaries, because spiritual truths must be handled with care, not driven by personal judgment or eagerness to defend. So that was a very clear comment and instruction given by the master. So this is the end of this letter 156 from January 1883. That was addressed to Blavatsky from Hume. And now the next letter on this appendix-III is what has been what is LBS 192, written in August 1883 by Anna Kingsford, which was the president of the London Lodge, which was the lodge of like kind of the center of the Theosophical Society in the Western world at the time. And it's a letter that she addresses to Samuel Ward, or Uncle Sam, the way they used to call him, who was an American member of the London Lodge of the Theosophical Society. When I read this letter from by Anna Kingsford, I tried to access the letter of Samuel Ward. That was the one that she is replying, but there is no widely accessible text of any letter from Samuel Ward to her available, and most of the reference to him come from Kingsford's own writings, while Kingsford's letters and diaries have been preserved and published. Ward's does not appear to have been, so there is no possibility to access this letter. But with the letter itself, we can grasp a lot of things. In this letter, she writes to him to reassure him regarding concerns raised by Madame Blavatsky over an alleged incident involving access to the Mahatmas. But it seems in his letter he was concerned or worried about a comment that Blavatsky did regarding something that he commented or said. But Anna Kingsford, actually, the tone of the entire letter is reassuring him that there is no real reason for concern, that he has done nothing wrong, and that the members of the great hierarchies are beyond personal offense or misunderstanding, so no injustice can occur. And and she says the following. She says, as to the mess all around of which Madame Blavatsky speaks, you certainly need reproach yourself in nothing. but may rest assured that masters of the rank of the Anshohans are not affected by any such acts, those deplored by Madame Blavatsky. Neither is it possible for them to be irritated, vexed, or displeased. Celestials are like above and beyond all misunderstandings. KH instructors. So she's actually referring to a hierarchy that is even superior to the masters. And KH instructors being of a lofty rank must perfectly well know both your motives and his. So there is no reason to worry. And this gives us a hint, what she says, of the nature of those great beings of the higher hierarchies. And actually, in the letter, she even mentions that the only unfortunate element from her point of view is the external criticism that is coming from those skeptics that may say that Madame Blavatsky wants to prevent people from discovering the master because they might be non-existent. Since she was trying to preserve their existence, then people used to see that as a suspicious element, maybe proving that, oh, she doesn't want us to know them or access them because they are not real. She is making them up. And Anna Kingsford says that this attitude of Madame Blavatsky puts a risk or is a risk to the credibility of the Theosophical Society if it appears that the masters are a fraud. And Kingsford suggests that Master KH should meet Ward's friends, an individual that he refers in his letter, instead of vanishing. Because if Master KH appears to these friends of Ward, this will prove that the master exists and will silence the critics of people that are skeptic regarding the existence of the masters. And she continues like this. She says, Madame Blavatsky will, in my opinion, be far better advised if she will try to prevail on KH not to vanish, but to receive your friend. The latter event will indeed demonstrate the existence of at least one adept. So she's also trying to suggest what should be the good thing to do in her opinion. But apart from this, in the letter, she also expresses a lot of confidence in the protection and guidance of the celestials, like the tone of the first paragraph. And she's actually minimizing the whole incident and even puts a critique of Western phenomenalism. She quotes an article that was written in some journal of the time, in which they are mocking of all these phenomena, and they are calling that very ironically that all these Indian magicians are trying to make believe these kind of things. So she's putting even a critique on this, and what she is really expressing by this Kingsford is that she kind of rejects building theosophy on phenomena or occult powers. She claims that this leads to mockery in the West, and actually Anna Kingsford's approach was more of a esoteric Christianist. So she was also not a very defender of the phenomena as a part of the expression of this. But at the time was something that was happening. So she continues the letter. It confirms my conviction that Sinnet is adopting a mistaken policy in the line he is talking up in this country. Mere phenomena are an unworthy basis on which to build and will infallibly bring contempt on the whole movement so far as the West is concerned. He finds my position and Mr. Maitland's utterly incomprehensible, to wit, that supposing it to be proved tomorrow that the brothers had no existence and that their writings were all forgeries, we should have lost nothing in any way essential to philosophy, nor will our philosophy be in the smallest degree shaken or impaired. That is their opinion, Maitland's and Anna Kingsford's. And to this, the master has a comment when she says that supposing it to be proved tomorrow that the brothers have not existed and that their writings were all forgeries, then the master comments, it seems that charity is not always the handmaid of seership, nor clairvoyance, its most marked feature in the West. This is a comment from Master H. And this is a gentle but pointed critique of Anna Kingsford's tone and judgmental attitude towards the role of the masters. She has just stated that even if the Mahatma letters were forgeries and the mere existence of the masters were forgeries, theosophy will remain intact, implying a sharp skepticism toward the Eastern source of those teachings that are the core teachings of theosophy. And the remark of the master suggests that true spiritual insight should be accompanied by humility and compassion, or how he says, charity. He says, it seems that charity is not always the handmaid of seership, nor clairvoyance is most marked feature in the West. But this comment of the master suggests that in Kingsford's esotericism, there appears to be more ego and rivalry than spiritual generosity. That is what this comment of the master to her letter suggests. And then her letter continues. The work to be done by theosophy in the West does not necessarily connect itself with any Oriental Mahatmas. The intelligence concerned in the new dispensation are independent of all rishis, and their whole scheme was developed in the West long before the Tibet Brotherhood was ever mentioned. And there is a comment of the master in capital letters that says, trade jealousy. Let's see what all this means. Anna Kingsford argues that theosophy's core value doesn't depend on the existence of the Mahatmas or the authenticity of the letters. She claims that even if all of it were a fabrication, the underlying philosophy would still stand. And she goes further. She asserts that a new dispensation began in the West, independent of the Eastern rishis or Tibetan Brotherhood. Then K.H. responds with a sharp touch of irony, trade jealousy, suggests that Kingsford's remarks may stem less from spiritual insight and more from rivalry or ambition. She seems to hint that she's trying to elevate her own esoteric system by undermining the Eastern teachings brought through H.P.B. And this brief comment speaks volumes about the tensions within the movement, especially the growing divide between Eastern and Western approaches to esotericism that was happening at the time within the London Lodge. And let us remember that Kingsford, in her later years, withdrew from public life. She died very young. She died only with 41 years old. But in her later years, she withdrew from public life to focus on inner work, claiming that she was preparing the ground for a Western spiritual revelation. Later in this letter, she even refers to a mysterious secret book known to only to two people. I'm not quoting that passage, but the final part of the letter, she says that she has a book that is secret that only two people know, and that book contains teachings beyond those of the Mahatmas, though she is not yet allowed to reveal them. And she ends her message with a prediction that Sinnet will return to India to fulfill his modest mission, because this division was a lot between Anna Kingsford and Sinnet. So she says that she puts like Sinnet's mission is very modest mission, and urges Ward, Uncle Ward, to remain patient, faithful to conscience, and trusting in the divine plan. So altogether, the letter sheds light on key internal divisions of the society between East and West, revelation and rivalry, philosophy and phenomena. This letter reveals a significant ideological rift within the early theosophical movement, particularly between the London Lodge, that, as I mentioned, was the center of the Theosophical Society in the Western world. And at the time, it was led by Anna Kingsford. And the other position will be the Indian-based circle around H.P.B., and which was also supported by Sinnet, or Sinnet was closer to that movement, Indian-based circle. And it highlights a struggle between two models of theosophy. Let us remember that in the letters 121 and 122, this issue is approached more in depth about all the issues, the London Lodge affair, and these 2 points of views in which there was a phenomenological, Eastern-oriented movement grounded in the authority of the Mahatmas that was more on the lead of Sinnet, that was in touch with the Mahatmas and with Blavatsky, versus a Western mystical esoteric path based on inner revelation and Christian esoteric interpretation that was led by Anna Kingsford and Maitland. So Kingsford's focus on principle over hierarchy foreshadows later esoteric movements that distance themselves from guru-based structures. And this exchange marks a pivotal moment of doctrinal divergence, contributing to eventual splits in the Theosophical Society. And she actually separated from the Theosophical Society, so she died very young. There are a lot of esoteric movements in Western that linked their origin to Anna Kingsford's ideas and proposals and kind of revelations that she was trying to put in this letter by saying that she has an occult notebook with teachings that she is not yet allowed to reveal. So actually that happened. She distanced herself, and she was a remarkable woman and a vegetarian activist, one of the first women of making all these things, but she ended up distancing herself from the Theosophical movement and exploring other paths. And that is reflected even in the opinions that she puts in this letter that she addresses to Uncle Sam. So as shown, I mean, these fragments and letters really show us a lot of insights regarding not only the administration, the status of the Theosophical Society at the beginning, but we can understand a lot of history of the Theosophical movement itself by reading them, and the comments of the masters always enlighten us and always put the perspective in a different approach rather than the merely rational one, but they kind of challenge us to go further, to reflect, to see things in new and completely different ways that really help us to develop that Buddhi in us. So we'll stop here for today. And in our final session, that will be next Friday, we'll look at short letters and comment that shed further light on the masters and theosophy. And thank you, Sister Vimal, and everyone for your patient listening. And okay.
Thank you so much, Catalina. And now we'll have our discussions after the Hindi translation. Sushma ji, most welcome.
थैंक यू सिस्टर कैटेलिना एंड सिस्टर मेवल जी। सिस्टर मीनाक्षी जी को भी धन्यवाद, वो बहुत अनुभवी हैं। मैं समय समय पर उनसे निर्देश लेती रहती हूँ, पूछती रहती हूँ। आज हम लेटर नंबर 156 का शेष भाग ले रहे हैं। यह पत्र एयू ह्यूम ने 4 जनवरी 1881 में एचपीबी को लिखा था, जिसमें मास्टर एम की टिप्पणियां हैं। हम पॉइंट नंबर 6 से लेते हैं। ए ह्यूम सप्त सिद्धांतों के विषय में एक व्यंग्यात्मक रूप से प्रश्न करते हुए कहते हैं कि तुम्हारे 7 सिद्धांतों में एक तो तब्बत में बंधक रखा गया है। अब यदि मुझे अनुमति दें तो मैं अपने बंधुओं से इन 7 सिद्धांतों के विषय में पूछता हूँ। आप मुझे सटीक रूप से इसकी जानकारी दें। पहला वो कहते हैं कि यह स्थूल शरीर भी नहीं है जो बहुत स्पष्ट एवं प्रत्यक्ष है, लेकिन आप कहेंगे कि यह बहुत ठोस है जो पिघल जाएगा। दूसरा, यह लिंग शरीर भी नहीं है हो सकता क्योंकि यह शरीर से अलग नहीं हो सकता, और यह काम रूप भी नहीं है, और यदि होता तो उसकी क्षति लक्षणों का कारण नहीं होती। न तो यह निश्चित रूप से जीवात्मा है जो आपके भीतर अपरिमित जीवन है, और न ही ये पांचवा सिद्धांत मन है, क्योंकि इसके बिना आप बाहरी दुनिया के लिए मूर्ख होंगे, और न ही ये छठा सिद्धांत है, क्योंकि इसके बिना आप एक शैतान होंगे, यानी विवेक के बिना बुद्धि। जबकि सातवां सिद्धांत सार्वभौमिक है, जिसे न तो कोई बंधु या न कोई बुद्ध पकड़ सकता है, लेकिन प्रत्येक के लिए यह ठीक उस सीमा तक अस्तित्व में है जिस सीमा तक उसकी छठे सिद्धांत की अंतर्दृष्टि जागृत है या अनावृत है। फिर एयूम कहते हैं, इसलिए मेरे लिए स्पष्टीकरण न तो एकमात्र है और न ही संतोषजनक, बल्कि इसे प्रस्तुत किया जाना पूरी तरह एक संदेह पैदा करता है। क्योंकि इस व्याख्या पर मास्टर का उत्तर बहुत चतुराईपूर्ण है। वह कहते हैं, लेकिन मान लीजिए इनमें से एक भी सिद्धांत नहीं, बल्कि उनमें सभी सिद्धांत अपंग हैं, पैरालाइज्ड हैं, और उसने अपनी पूरी शक्तियों का प्रयोग करने से मना कर दिया है। तो यह मान लीजिए कि दूरदर्शी शक्ति का ऐसा ही बुद्धिमानी भरा नियम है। क्यों फिर प्रश्न करते हैं, जैसा कि बिल्कुल संभव है सब कुछ समझाया जा सकता है, तो मैं केवल उन श्रेष्ठ प्राणियों की मूर्खता पर खेद प्रकट करता हूँ जो आपकी अपनी क्षमताओं में से केवल एक हिस्से के साथ दुनिया से लड़ने के लिए भेजते हैं, और वे आपको सावधानी पूर्वक ऐसे विरोधाभासी और समझौता करने वाले तथ्यों के जाल से घेरते हैं जिससे आपके सबसे प्रिय और कुछ कम बुद्धिमान लोग जो है वह संदेह पैदा होता है, इसलिए और उससे बच पाना भी असंभव है। फिर वह दोषारोपण करते हुए कहते हैं कि इससे मास्टर्स के अस्तित्व के बारे में ही नहीं, बल्कि आपकी सद्भावना के बारे में भी संदेह पैदा होता है। मास्टर कहते हैं कि जो उसे जानते हैं उन्हें कभी संदेह नहीं होता। अब फिर ह्यूम लिखते हैं कि मैं बस इतना ही कह सकता हूं कि मैं अगर अभी भी सबूतों के आधार पर मानता हूं कि बंधु मौजूद हैं, तो उनसे विनती करें, प्रार्थना करें कि वो आपको यानी एचपीबी को मजबूत करें, ताकि आप एक महान नैतिक सुधारक बन सकें। उन्हें आपकी रक्षा करनी चाहिए और उनके उद्देश्यों को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए उन्हें हमारे हाथों को मजबूत करना चाहिए। इस पर मास्टर कहते हैं कि जब समय आएगा तो हम ऐसा करने में असफल नहीं होंगे। क्यों बिना कहते हैं कि मैं विश्वास करता हूं कि तुम पूर्ण रूप से सत्यवादी स्त्री हो, लेकिन मैं यह शपथ पूर्वक नहीं कह सकता कि बंधुओं के अस्तित्व के विषय में पूरी कहानी कल्पना नहीं थी। वह प्रश्न करते हैं कि हमारे मसीहा KH फिर कब दिखाई देंगे, फिर कब प्रकट होंगे। वो हमारी पसंद के पात्र हैं। मास्टर्स टिप्पणी करते हैं कि निंदक आदमी KH किसी की संतुष्टि के लिए पात्र नहीं है, उसे संदेह करने दो, वह शीघ्र ही अपनी गलती को जानेगा। ह्यूम पुनः आपत्ति करते हुए कहते हैं कि मुझे लगता है कि आप अपना काम बेहतर जानते हैं, किंतु मानवीय रूप से कहें तो अपने अस्तित्व के बारे में किसी भी निश्चित तथ्य को बताए बिना मेरी ऊर्जा को कमजोर करने की गलती करते हैं, और इस तरह वो मुझे संदेह से परेशान करते हैं कि क्या मैं उन सिद्धांतों का प्रचार नहीं कर रहा जो अपने आप में शुद्ध होने के बावजूद भी एक धोखाधड़ी पर आधारित हो सकते हैं, और अगर ऐसा है तो कोई अच्छा काम नहीं कर सकता, कहीं भी कोई अच्छा काम नहीं कर सकता। क्यों प्रश्न करते हैं, इस संदेह से क्या मैं बुरे भाव से अपना समय और बुद्धि एक कल्पना पर बर्बाद नहीं कर रहा हूँ, समय और ऊर्जा जिसे मैं किसी विनम्र लेकिन संभवतः सच्चे और अधिक उत्पादक कारण के लिए समर्पित कर सकता हूँ। हालांकि मैं 1 साल के लिए इसमें संलग्न हूँ और इस दौरान ईमानदारी और निष्पक्षता से सब कुछ करूंगा, लेकिन उस अवधि के भीतर मुझे कोई निश्चितता नहीं मिलती, तो मैं ये महसूस करते हुए सोसाइटी से सेवानिवृत्त हो जाऊंगा। फिर सीनेट फिर कहते हैं कि सीनेट हालांकि भाग्यशाली साथी है, उसमें उनमें संदेह की कोई छाया नहीं। वो अपने दृढ़ विश्वास, स्थिति और योग्यताओं के साथ वो आपके लिए और थियोसॉफी के लिए ताकत के स्तंभ होंगे। ऑलकट को प्यार और आपका स्नेहपूर्ण ह्यूम। अंत में मास्टर कहते हैं कि मैं ह्यूम के पंपलेट के वर्तमान स्वरूप को स्वीकार नहीं करता। तुलनात्मक रूप से सोसाइटी के बहुत कम सदस्य गुप्त विद्याओं का अध्ययन करते हैं या हमारे अस्तित्व में विश्वास करते हैं। उनका पत्रक यानी पैम्पलेट पूरे निकाय को दोनों के लिए प्रतिबद्ध करता है। मास्टर चाहते हैं कि आप यथासंभव लंबे समय तक यहाँ रहें। वह डिसइनहेरिटेड के माध्यम से फिर लिखेंगे। यहाँ पत्र समाप्त होता है। मास्टर एम। दूसरा पत्र 92 है। यह पत्र अगस्त 1881 में अन्ना किंग्सफोर्ड ने, जो लंदन लॉज की प्रेसिडेंट है, उन्होंने सैमुअल सी तथा लंदन के अन्य सदस्यों को लिखा था। इस पत्र की पृष्ठभूमि कुछ इस प्रकार से है। वह लिखती हैं कि मैंने आपका पत्र और उसमें संलग्न मैडम एचपीबी के पत्र की प्रतिलिपि को बार बार पढ़ा और मुझे बाद वाले पत्र में आपके द्वारा पहले पत्र में व्यक्त की गई चिंताओं का कोई ठोस आधार नहीं मिला। आपकी भूमिका बहुत निर्दोषपूर्ण है तथा मैडम एचपीबी जिस अव्यवस्था की बात करती हैं, अगर वह अव्यवस्था है भी, तो वह उसकी सीमा क्षेत्र और उसके चरित्र का सबसे अच्छी न्यायाधीश है। लेकिन आपको निश्चित रूप से किसी भी बात के लिए खुद को दोषी ठहराने की आवश्यकता नहीं है। लेकिन आप निश्चिंत रहें कि ध्यानी चौहान के स्तर के गुरुदेव मैडम बी द्वारा की गई किसी भी ऐसी निंदा से प्रभावित नहीं होते और न ही उनके लिए उत्तेजित, परेशान या अप्रसन्न होना संभव है। ये दिव्य लोग सभी गलतफहमियों से ऊपर और परे हैं तथा कैच के प्रशिक्षक उच्च पद पे होने के कारण वो आपके और उनके दोनों के उद्देश्यों को अच्छी तरह से जानते हैं। अतः उनके या आपके साथ कोई भी अन्याय होना असंभव है। इस विषय में आप निश्चिंत हो सकते हैं। फिर अन्ना किंग्सकोट कहती हैं, एचपीबी के दृष्टिकोण का इस मामले में सबसे दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण तथ्य यह है कि जो बाहरी लोगों को आलोचना करने का अवसर प्रदान करता है। संशयवादी कह सकते हैं कि मैडम एचपीबी लोगों को गुरुदेव की खोज से रोकना चाहती है, क्योंकि संभव है कि उनका अस्तित्व ही न हो या मिथक हो या वो उतने श्रेष्ठ बुद्धिमानी नहीं हो जैसा कि उनके लिए घोषित किया गया था। यह धारणा भारतीय थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी की विश्वसनीयता के लिए जोखिमपूर्ण हो सकती है। आगे वो लिखती हैं, मेरी राय में मैडम एचपीबी के लिए यह सलाह कहीं ज्यादा बेहतर होगी कि वह केच को अदृश्य या गायब होने के लिए न कहें, बल्कि आपके मित्र से मिलाने हेतु मनाने की कोशिश करें। बात की यह घटनाएं कम से कम एक सिद्ध बंधु के अस्तित्व को तो प्रदर्शित करेंगी। वह अलौकिक यानी सेलेस्टियल की सुरक्षा व निर्देश में अपना विश्वास करती हैं। अंत में फिर किंग्सफोर्ड लिखते हैं, जिसमें दूसरा तथ्य वो देती हैं, जिसमें सेनेट का उल्लेख करती हुई कहती हैं कि यह मेरे विश्वास की पुष्टि करता है कि सेनेट इस देश में जिस दिशा में आगे बढ़ रहे हैं वह गलत नीति अपना रहे हैं। मात्र घटनाएं असामान्य क्रम की शक्तियों के यह सेनेट के लिए एक चेतावनी होनी चाहिए, लेकिन मुझे पता है कि ऐसा नहीं होगा, क्योंकि वह उन लोगों में से एक हैं जिनके लिए सभी घटनाएं महत्वपूर्ण हैं। उसे मेरी और श्री मेटलिन की स्थिति पूरी तरह से समझ के परे लगती है। अर्थात मान लीजिए
దాన్ని అక్కడే పెట్టండి, అది కంప్యూటర్ ల్యాప్టాప్ పెట్టుకునే ప్లేస్ ఇది.
अर्थात ये मान लीजिए कि कल यह साबित हो जाता है कि गुरुदेव का कोई अस्तित्व नहीं था और उनका लेखन भी जालसाजी से पूर्ण था। इस स्थिति में हमें थियोसॉफी के लिए एक आवश्यक आधार किसी तरह से भी और कुछ भी नहीं खोना चाहिए, न ही हमारा दर्शन थोड़ा भी विचलित या अप्रभावी हो। ऐसा लगता है कि दान हमेशा दृष्टा की दासी नहीं होता और न देव दृष्टि। पश्चिम देश की यह सबसे खास विशेषता है। केएच ने इस लाइन को अंडरलाइन किया है, पश्चिम देश की यह सबसे खास विशेषता है। फिर अन्ना लिखती हैं, पश्चिम में थियोसॉफी द्वारा किए जाने वाला कार्य जरूरी नहीं है कि किसी पूर्वी यानी ओरिएंटल महात्मा से जुड़ा हो। नए संगठन में शामिल बुद्धिजीवी सभी ऋषियों से स्वतंत्र हैं और उनकी पूरी योजना पश्चिम में विकसित की गई, जो तिब्बत के श्वेत संघ के बंधुओं के उल्लेख किए जाने से बहुत पहले विकसित हो चुकी थी। अंत में एक बोल्ड लेटर में व्यापार ईर्षा शब्द लिखा है, ट्रेड जेलेसी। उसमें अन्ना किंग्सफोर्ड का यह तर्क है कि थियोसॉफी की मूल विचारधारा महात्माओं के अस्तित्व या उनके पत्रों की प्रामाणिकता पर निर्भर नहीं करती। इस पर केएच ने तीखी प्रक्रिया दी है। वो कहते हैं, किंग्सफोर्ड की टिप्पणी आध्यात्मिक दृष्टि से कम और प्रतिद्वंदिता या महत्वाकांक्षा से अधिक संबंध रहती है। इस पत्र के अंत में वह लिखती हैं कि उन्हें एक रहस्यमय गुप्त पुस्तक का उल्लेख किया है जिसकी 2 लोगों को जानकारी है तथा वह महात्माओं की शिक्षा से भी परे शिक्षा है। पत्र के अंत में उल्लेख मिलता है कि सीनेट अपने मामूली मिशन को पूरा करने के बाद भारत लौटेंगे। मास्टर केएच।
Thank you so much, Sushma ji. Thank you. So now we'll open up for any discussions or additions. I see Professor Shinde is there. Shinde ji, would you like to add something to this presentation? Shinde ji?
Yes. I'm there. Thank you, Catalina. Very nice thing you have shown us. Actually, here, the point Sushma ji has read very nicely in Hindi, and it is very clear. But the question is, why people are doubting? It is not that even masters were not able to cooperate with H.P.B. Though H.P.B. was their faithful servant, though her particular temperament made her too opposed to some of them to allow them to work with her. This will seem less strange if it is remembered that each individual follower or secular evolves according to a certain ray of logos, and it is in sympathy with the souls that depend on that ray and perhaps in antagonism on the physical plane with entities coming from the another ray. So it is a doubt, and all this cannot cooperate because they are coming from the other plane, physical plane, and antagonism on physical plane because entity is coming from another ray. There is ray difference. This is probably the last ratio, what is called magnetic or auric or psychic dislike. There were teachers who could not work with the H.P.B. Several teachers who could not work with the H.P.B. because she was definitely on a different ray. And we are here on the planetary cycle. Probably we are evolving in the intellectual cycle in a solar cycle. So we are more connected with the solar cycle and planetary cycle. But the masters and teachers are more than that in a monadic or cosmic cycle. And whatever rays are there, they are not resonating with them. And that is the reason why HPB is so evolved, so faithful, still it was very difficult to work with them. And therefore, AP Sinnet or Hume, they were complaining about the HPB. This is the reason why there is so many explanation has to be given by the masters to AP Sinnet. This is what I want to add, nothing more, but Catalina has explained very nicely. It is nothing, just I am telling you how the rays, difference rays, raise in our mind doubt. We also doubt because we are not convinced as we have not seen the masters. But still doubt remains. That doubt should not be there. Only when that doubt goes, then perhaps we can tune with them. This is what they insist in all this letter. I am very much thankful to Catalina explaining very nicely. And I understood Dr. Sushma's Hindi also very nice and simple way she has explained. Thank you very much, Vimalji, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your nice words, sir. Basically, like you said, sir, that those people who did not get correspondence or did not meet the masters could not believe the masters. But today, I mean, after 150 years, a special year for all of us, we see the context of the entire movement because we see so much data, and there isn't anybody who now doubts the existence of the masters. I mean, there's nothing to say. It is proven beyond all doubt that they do exist. And because we have the context of innumerable writings by them, whether in the Theosophist, in the Lucifer, in so many journals, so many articles, and so much has been written after that. So I guess that isn't the problem. The problem here is from these letters to pick up something which is very useful for our daily use. For me, like each person can take up something which they found which is applicable to their daily life. Like I will give an example in this case. In the letter to by Hume, what Master says about when Hume has written this thing, this is the done the previous time, not this time, in which he says that Hume is saying, but I am not the chosen messenger of the embodiment of all purity and virtue. I am a mud-stained soul that though a cat may look at a king, may not even look at a brother. Means I am such a ordinary person. मेरे को तो I won't even, I may look at a king, but I cannot even look at a brother. So he's being like falsely modest. So in that, what the master says is very useful for us. He says, he's defining hypocrisy. And if you read it very carefully, you'll find that we all have this trait in us. Hypocrisy is not always the necessary burden of villainy, but often the outcome of vain coquetry with one's own nature. What does this line mean? It means that vain coquetry means we are pretending as if we are very, humble people, and in that we are pretending humility here, and that is coquetry, pretension of humility. That is hypocrisy which he is practicing. And like we can also do that, like we can pretend to be humble but we're not really humble. So that kind of things we can learn from these letters, apart from the fact that of course there is lot of interest in understanding these letters. Like if you look at Anna Kingsford, which Catalina brought out many interesting things, which was like that she started a movement which was followed by many people then. Catalina, I think it would be nice if you, I think you've read more about this. If you do you want to share something more about Anna Kingsford's following, her influence, a little more, if you have any more to add. Catalina? Okay, I think she's not there. No problem. I just wanted to say that Anna Kingsford is supposed to be a person from the sixth subrace. So she was a very advanced soul. And as you know that the people who
no.
are from these, yes, yes.
No, no, go on. I was not able to unmute myself, but you finish and then yeah, please finish.
So she was from the sixth subrace. She was supposed to be from the sixth subrace. She was a very advanced soul, and as you know, like this sixth subrace, the quality of that is real geniuses, extreme geniuses, extremely intelligent people, along with maybe other side abilities. So she had those qualities. Now, if you do want to add something about what you said, because this was very interesting, which you said that she had her own following, she had her own people who are doing. What were you trying to say in that?
Okay, as you mentioned, I mean, she was just a remarkable woman. She was like she was involved with the spirituality, feminism, vegetarianism. She was one of the first person that advocated actively for vegetarianism. And she really had also this like brilliance, like leadership, etc. But she was also, that is what I have read. I actually don't know the entire history, but she was more inclined to the Christian Hermeticism. And she was like, what I understood, not only of this letter, but of her, of what I have read about her, is that she used to like advise more like about the inner revelation, kind of following the call within, finding the master within, instead of like referring to external masters, which of course it has its own value clearly, because I guess ultimately, even if there are doubts of external masters, which as you mentioned shouldn't be, because we have so many proofs nowadays. But let's suppose there is still a doubt about the external master. There is a master that we should never doubt, that is the internal master. And that's why even this, I mean, we as theosophists, exercising our discernment and our freedom of thought should really examine things in a personal basis, putting it in a search of our internal master. So I understand that that was a kind of her point of view, which I think is really remarkable, and it's totally valid, because ultimately it's a spiritual aim. But also there was, I mean, since she was also a very remarkable woman, and she had like a group of followers also. She ultimately ended up diverging paths, as happened in many other with many other people of the theosophical movement at the time. And there are, I don't remember the names of the groups, but there is one that is called the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, that was inspiring her teachings. And there are other movements that still today, especially in US, are have some kind of link. I remember when I spoke about the letter 122 and 121, I read something about that. Now I don't have it fresh in my memory, but yes, there are people. I mean, when you look at the remarkable women theosophies, there was even a series of women theosophies from the European school, and there was one chapter dedicated to Anna Kingsford, because her influence was really capital at the time. And sadly, she died very young of tuberculosis, if I'm not mistaken, but she had a very important role at the time in the other movements that ultimately pointed at the same thing. I mean, the inner development. So I don't see it necessarily as antagonists. I see it as Professor Schinde wisely explained. There are different tendencies in the human beings. We have different rays, and some people vibrate and identify themselves more with one stream than others. So as far as we are in the search of that higher thing in us, that higher call, the path should be the one that we found. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Very true. Like we have anthroposophy, and we don't have so many followers of that in our meetings, but they are also reading many of the same texts. So you're right. I mean, there are so many parallel groups, and like you say, they are from different races and religions. So with all this, we will end. Thank you so much, Catalina. It was a wonderful presentation. Thank you, Sushma ji. So, Catalina, can I request you to say a prayer, maybe in your language?
In my language. Oh, in Spanish.
Or
Okay,
anything, whatever.
Okay. I'll say this that we say at the end of the meetings of the esoteric esoteric school in Spanish, which I find very beautiful. May the holy beings whose disciples we aspire to be, that one. But I'll tell you in Spanish. Okay. Que los santos seres cuyos discípulos aspiramos ser nos muestren la luz que buscamos y nos den la fuerte ayuda de su compasión y de su sabiduría. Hay una paz que sobrepasa el entendimiento. Vive y actúa en el corazón de los que viven en lo eterno. Hay un poder que renueva todas las cosas. Vive y actúa en el corazón de quienes viven en lo eterno. Que esa paz reine sobre nosotros. Que ese poder nos eleve hasta que lleguemos donde se encuentra el iniciador único, hasta que veamos resplandecer su estrella. Así sí.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It
Thank
was very
you.
nice. Just hearing it from the heart, it feels nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.